My name is Risa Steinicke, and I'm going to do the Child Abuse and Prevention Treatment Act of 1974. What is CAPTA? It was sponsored by Richard Nixon and his successor, Gerald Ford. CAPTA stands for Child Abuse and Prevention Treatment Act. It is the legislation that provided federal funds to states to develop reporting systems for investigations of abuse and neglect. This act was historical because it was the first time attention was brought to the need for protection services. The original legislation. The main goal in the original legislation was to provide funds for the prevention, how can abuse be prevented, identification, what are signs of abuse, treatment, how to improve treatment for victims of abuse, and the act also created two types of grant programs. It created the federal grant program, which was the basic grants to states to support new prevention, assessment, investigation, prosecution, and treatment activities, and demonstration, which was grants to public agencies and nonprofit organizations, including Indian tribes and tribal organizations, to pilot the test innovations and train state personnel. The revised legislation in 2010 authorized grants to states to increase adoption of foster care children if grantees could describe how they could plan to improve placement rate of children into permanent homes, intend to improve the placement of older children, minority children, and children with special needs, the will to evaluate program effectiveness, and the will to coordinate activities with other service providers. What problems was CAPTA designed to correct? CAPTA shaped the way for who becomes responsible for child abuse. The main issue the policy fixed was the action taken on by those other than the parents. The policy allowed for state funding so interventions could be made when there was evidence of neglect, physical, or sexual abuse. Problems specific to Houston. A problem Houston deals with specifically is the need for more housing units for troubled teens who are less likely to be taken in by foster parents. Houston faces the crisis of troubled teens being sent to psychiatric wards rather than adequate group homes due to lack of physical needs, such as beds, space, and supervision, as well as monetary needs. Group homes are expensive, therefore less people are willing to start them and take in more children. Houston also has a shortage of CPS staff on hand, therefore cases are getting overlooked if they are considered low priority, and more abuse is left unhandled. The problems took a turn for the worst when a 15-year-old foster child was struck and killed while trying to leave CPS office. She was being housed there due to a lack of foster parent availability and was poorly supervised. This case specifically calls for stronger policy action because more funding may have provided the child with more adequate care, and she could still be alive today. Statistics of child abuse. There are 700,000 children reported to be abused throughout the United States each year. Although there are 700,000 confirmed cases of abuse each year by CPS, CPS intervenes with about 3.4 million families for reported abuse. Texas alone has 65,000 cases of confirmed child abuse each year. Although poverty creates a higher risk factor for the likelihood of abuse, it is not a cause. Abuse can be found in any community throughout the board. The policy allows for the state to intervene and find adequate care for these children. If there was no solution to the policy, or even if the policy received less funding, more children could be at risk for staying in abusive and neglectful homes. The goals. The manifest goals I found were to increase identification, reporting, and investigation of abuse to further prevent the child from further harm, train caseworkers on how to properly identify and report abuse, implement laws to further protect children from being harmed. And the latent goals I found were to provide adequate supervision and care for foster children, to reduce foster teens from being placed in psychiatric care, and to provide more funding for workers to take less cases. the benefits. Mandated funding for child protection programs, removing children from inadequate care, and providing proper treatment to those who have already been abused. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.